recorded. So you guys, I'm sure you know the drill by now. So you'll be able to access at a later time if you wish. So I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me, I'm sorry, I'm kind of doing not that this is like really a crazy stressful thing, but I'm doing it for both of us and I can't get, okay. So we have, I'm going to show you guys that. Yeah, I work for NOFA New York in Binghamton. I work with the crop department as an assistant. We'll be here, I'll be here helping to make sure everything goes smoothly today, though we haven't had the greatest start. It can only go up from here, so I think it's gonna be great. If you have any specific technical questions, feel free to send those in the chat option. Quick reminders, remain muted with your video off during presentations. I'm gonna enable closed captioning. And these are perfect. So if you'd like, and you should have, there should be a notification at the top, and I'm gonna do that in a second. I'm just making sure I'm helping everyone. Just being recorded, and it'll be shared on the conference website. Great. Feel free to introduce yourself or ask questions using the chat function. I do those at the end, but please enter them in the chat whenever they kind of come to your mind or whatever. NOFA New York's annual winter conference would not be Dog Farm. If you want to learn more about them, please visit them in the marketplace or online. So now I'm going to pass it off to Austin. And I'll be assisting with the question and answering as well, and anything you guys need. So Austin, I'm gonna have to make you a host here. I'm gonna make you the co-host.
Maria, yeah? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we actually have like we've got it all sorted out. I'm gonna go first. I'm Amy.
Okay, sorry, we had a low start, so I'll just make you co-host as well. Does that work? I made you the co-host, Amy. So does that work good? Okay,
that's
awesome.
Great.
So go ahead, guys, take it away.
Okay. Thanks so much, Maria, and thanks for hosting. And hopefully my voice is not garbled. I was having a little bit of hard time hearing you, Maria, and I'm hoping that was not on my end. So fingers crossed that our voices will come off okay. I actually have a slide deck. Would you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, yep, go ahead, please.
Fabulous. Okay, great. Yes, yeah, let me just get one more thing here. All right, I think we're set. So excited to be here. My name is Amy McCann. I'm the CEO of Local Food Marketplace, and I've invited Austin from Farm Stand Local Foods and Ellen from Farm Table Procurement and Delivery to be panelists on this session about leveraging technology to support resilient local food systems. And really excited for you all to hear from them. They both use a variety of technologies for their hubs and for their farms that they support. And I think you'll probably learn a lot from them as we go through the next session. I did want to kind of talk a little bit about what our agenda is going to look like. I'm going to be sort of the moderator here of questions that we've kind of prepared here to go through this particular topic, and then we'll kind of dive into these different sections. So I'm going to give you a very short introduction about Local Food Marketplace. If you just a sort of housekeeping item, we won't be doing any demo of local food marketplace. That probably goes without saying for most people here, but just don't want to disappoint anybody. If you do want a demo or any information, feel free to reach out to me. And then of course, Ellen and Austin, I'm sure will be available for questions specific to things that they share. So we're going to get started with some introductions, and then we're going to talk about the technologies that they use. And I think you'll be pretty impressed and or surprised about the many different ones that they utilize. We're going to talk about adoption, since that's always a topic when we talk about the local food space. And then talk about evaluating technology, and I hope everybody walks away with some great ideas, some new things they might think about, look at for their businesses, and ways they can leverage technology. I think we don't have everybody muted, possibly. Anyway, we will take questions as we go. So if you use that chat, I'll be watching that for any specific questions for Austin or Ellen. So feel free to pop those in there, and we'll take them as they go. If it feels like something that's kind of maybe a bigger topic or slightly different than what the topic they are talking about, we'll hold off till the end and get those questions answered at that time. So, but our intent is to leave, a good 15 or 20 minutes at the end of our time here together to get as many questions out as possible. So that's our plan here. Yeah, I put this slide in here, just, I know this is being recorded. It's, then you have information on how to contact each one of us as needed, looking forward after our session. Just a little bit more about us, myself. I helped co-found Local Food Marketplace in 2009. So, hard to believe we're turning 14 this year. And our mission has always been and continues to be to help small farms thrive, and relocalize our food system by using technology. So that's what we've always done, and what we continue to do. Fast forward to wow, got to update this. It's now February 2023. And we're largely considered the leading platform for local food sales in the US and Canada. And we've shifted our vision. Our mission stays the same, but we're kind of expanding our vision to not only help small farms thrive, but also expanding that into enabling a local food ecosystem with the platform. We work with all sorts of different types of businesses that use the platform, from food hubs to farmers markets to farms, ranchers, and producers, with over 300 hubs and markets utilizing the platform and 12,000 farms and producers. Our customers use the platform for all sorts of different sales channels, from wholesale to retail, CSA, and even in-person sales like farm stands and farmers markets. And increasingly so, particularly with some of the funding that's been made available for local food purchasing, for institutional sales and farm to school and farm to food pantry and other food access programs. Our team, I'm just one member of an entire team that's really about a very dedicated team that has a lot of experience in this industry, from farms to hubs to managing farmers markets and everywhere in between. What I want to do now, though, is turn our focus to our panelists, and have them do a quick introduction about themselves and get everybody introduced that's going to be speaking here. So, Austin, I'm going to let you take it away and do an introduction about yourself and about FarmStand Local Foods, please.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. And just let me know if my voice is choppy at all in the comments. My name is Austin Becker, and I'm a co-owner of FarmStand Local Foods. We're based in Seattle, Washington, and we are a small distribution company geared towards local farms in the area. So we started in 2017 with sort of a hyper local focus, sourcing from farms as close as we could from the city, which if you know Seattle, Washington geography at all, that's primarily Snohomish, King, and Pierce counties. We've since expanded to source fruit from the east side of the Cascades. We do Oregon wild rice from the Willamette Valley south of Portland. We do some canned fish from Alaska, but our main mission is still primarily supporting the farms as close to Seattle as possible. And farms some who we've had a long-term relationship with, some who we have a need from our customers and we go seek out the product and we develop relationships with. So our main goal is to provide the customer kind of the same sort of service they would get if they were ordering directly from a farm, but the convenience of ordering from several farms at once. So very similar to a lot of the food hub models around the country. In 2020, at the beginning of 2020, which was very interesting timing, we actually merged with a retail home delivery company called Pacific Coast Harvest, which allowed us to secure lease on a bigger warehouse as shown in the picture. And it was really a good opportunity for us to condense sort of our labor. We had people working 2 closing shift and an open per week. So it allowed us to give people regular schedules. And then also probably most importantly, diversify our revenue streams between not only restaurants and institutions and wholesale buyers, but also home customers as well. So we've grown quite quickly, both in terms of farmers and customers. And our trajectory is one that we see continuing to grow in a sort of organic fashion. We take a long time to develop relationships with farms. We get to know them personally, visit their farms. And part of what's allowed us to do all of this is local food marketplace and a lot of the other pieces of technology that we use. So we found a lot of success in the last couple of years implementing some of the apps and software that I'll talk about in a little bit here, because we've realized as sort of a small company, every single minute matters when you have a small team and you're trying to make a big impact. So I'm not really personally a technology guy myself, which is sort of the irony of me presenting, but I also like understand the importance and see the great value in the time we've saved in investing in some of these systems. So
thank you so much, Austin. Impressive things that you've done there. And I'm going to turn the mic over, so to speak, now to Ellen, the co-founder or founder of Farm Table Procurement and Delivery, and have Ellen give you a little bit of information about her and her organization.
Yeah, so my husband and I started farming in 2010, and I started a vegetable farm because I didn't know what else to do as part of our large organic farm that my family farms. And then I had a baby, and I quickly discovered how challenging it was to do the hustle and bustle of moving my food. One thing led to another, and I didn't know that I started a food hub. And I actually was aggregating and distributing other farmers' foods as well as my own. And then I stopped farming. And now we support about 45 to 60, I mean, it kind of depends on the week, farmers a week currently. And our food hub started in 2014, 2013. Our niche mostly is organic or organically grown products. We focus heavy on produce, but we also have dairy, meat, value-added items, and such. And then we started using LFM in 2016 when I had my second baby. Needed to kind of streamline some things. Our customers are mostly wholesale, farm to school. We do food bake sales. Thanks to the LFPA grant, do a lot of institutional We do direct to consumers, and we are actually doing that before the pandemic, and it's great that we already had that system in place prior to the pandemic, because that really helped carry us when our restaurants and schools and everybody shut down. And we do retail. And then a really interesting thing we also do is we facilitate farmer to farmer. So we see farmers supplementing their CSA boxes or their farm stand with other local products. So when farmers bring things to our warehouse, they might also be picking up their order. We primarily work in the Des Moines and Omaha food sheds. Omaha has like the highest restaurant per capita in the country, and everybody wants local food, and it doesn't matter if that's part of their brand. Let's see, yeah, we have a warehouse where we also just let people come in and shop. And that mostly happened because I live in a small town and people are curious and people were looking for things. And so we used LFM to kind of, in a roundabout way, using it as like a POS. And is there another slide or is that it? Sorry. Oh, okay. I guess the biggest thing too, like Austin said, is, and we'll talk about this later, but technology is very helpful, and we've had exponential growth year after year. And I really like LFM because I can get a live snapshot of what's going on with my business immediately. Like I know where the sales are to the minute. And I really am nerdy about that kind of data. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ellen. I appreciate your intro there. And I'm sure lots of folks can relate, but also are kind of like myself in amazement of the number of businesses that you operate and jobs you hold down at one time. Spoken like a true farmer, right? Yeah, awesome. So Austin, I'm going to turn the mic back over to you. Since this session is about technology, wanting you to just kind of give us an overview for Farm Stand Local Foods. What are all the different systems you use in all the different categories? And I'm just going to bring up all the things here, not to give everything away, but let you talk through it.
Sure, thanks, Amy. So as I mentioned, we have a fairly small team. We range kind of seasonally anywhere from 10 to 15 folks, and we serve over 100 farmers in peak season. So every minute counts for us, and which I know for a lot of small farm businesses, it can be really hard to take the time to do the research to figure out what kind of technology is worth investing in to actually save you a lot of time in the long run. So I'll just go through some of the main ones that we use here. And again, you're hearing this kind of from a layman's perspective. It's actually my business partner who did the research and found a lot of these programs. And I just have reaped the benefits. So I can kind of give you a perspective from maybe a little more of a common person. So our sales platform for wholesale, which is our Farm Stand Local Foods brand, we use Local Food Marketplace. I like to consider myself an early adopter. I actually worked with Amy way back in 2014 through another Washington-based organization called the Puget Sound Food Hub. And we had switched from another piece of farm sales software that was kind of on its last leg. And so we started with that. And we realized there were all these different tools that we needed that would make it much easier to do what we were doing. Local Food Marketplace had a lot of those. So we switched over, and since then, they've been really responsive to adjustments and new features that we've submitted to them. So we use that for our wholesale. And then for the retail brand I mentioned, Pacific Coast Harvest, which is home delivery, we use Delivery Biz Pro. Which has a lot of pros and cons that we are weighing right now to figure out if we want to continue with that service. It has a really nice user interface, and That's really, really important in retail sales. We're considering as a team, just to consolidate everything from inventory to paperwork, considering consolidating all of our sales to local food marketplaces. They offer a pretty robust retail outlet as well. So that's something we're researching going forward. That I will just comment really quick. There's some food hubs and some farm organizations out there over the years that have developed their own software, kind of customized it exactly to their needs, which I think is, on the surface, it seems like a good idea, but the sort of the knock I've heard on that is if you hire a developer for X amount of dollars to design software that works exactly for how you need, and then that software engineer moves on and someone else comes in to basically a custom built car and has to rework and unpack how they've designed everything, it can get real costly. So that's a big benefit in kind of using a service in which, like, if there's an issue or something, there's many organizations that are bugging Amy on the weekend when she's not trying to be working. So that's sales. Sorry, can you flip back really quick? Sorry. And then for marketing, we use, I think pretty common, we use MailChimp. We do campaigns each week, and we particularly put quite a bit of stock into, we do a once per week fresh sheet in the winter months, which for us out here is from roughly December through like May, which I know isn't exactly winter, but when we start to get a lot more products on offer, June to November, we bump that up to twice per week. And that is actually, there's some features that are integrated with local food marketplace where you can easily pop your featured products right on over to MailChimp from local food marketplace with automated code that you just copy and paste. Instagram, I think, is pretty standard too. We have a moderate following and probably could have a much better one if we put more time into it. We personally try to share a lot of content, both from the agricultural and the culinary communities. So I have so much content on my phone. For me, it's a matter of getting around to posting it. We hardly use Facebook anymore at all. I think that's just kind of a sign of the times and the direction things are going. For texting, especially with producers, we use an app called Haymarket, which you'll see a screenshot later on. It essentially allows our whole 4-person team to communicate with producers all from one phone number, and it's text only, but it streamlines things really, really fast for us. We also use Google Voice. We have a number which we take incoming calls, and that translates it to emails for us, which is really helpful. Sorted is a brand new app we just started using with our team that connects, they call it a skin on Gmail. And so basically when we get incoming emails, we can sort them by who they're designated to. So we can have one catch-all address, but reply from the person that knows the most about whatever subject matter comes in. Accounting, we just use QuickBooks, pretty standard. And then for logistics and sending our drivers out, we use an app called Routific, which basically puts all the stops into a format which can then be translated to Google Maps or Apple Maps, and the driver can pick it up and be every single delivery they make, they can mark it entered. It automates a text to the person that received it. And then it also allows us to track where drivers are if we have questions about estimated time for deliveries and all kinds of other things. So all of these apps, I can say, I think in the long run, for the price we pay, it's pretty marginal compared to the time it saves us and the convenience it brings us across the board. So.
Thanks so much, Austin. And my apologies about clicking. I didn't mean to. I was trying to see if any questions had come up, and I realized now, announcement to everybody in this meeting, while I'm sharing my screen, seeing the comments is a little bit challenging. So without accidentally forwarding the slide deck. So anyway, my apologies there. I'm going to I'm going to turn this over to Ellen and have you answer that same question about what different systems farm table delivery uses. And, just give us a little bit of a rundown there. Would you mind doing that, Ellen?
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
we are very cheap, I guess I could say. So we use all the free things. Like I said earlier, local food marketplace, we started using them in 2016. I actually paid the extra money to have our entire product database uploaded and all the case sizes created. I paid that extra amount because I had just had a newborn baby and I wasn't going to do that. We use MailChimp and we used just the free MailChimp, which only lets you send an email every 24 hours. But I just got a text message from my staff person that they're currently having problems with that today. So here it goes. But we use MailChimp when our cart opens, and then we use it again when the cart closes, as well as any other special events or like fire sales. Like if we have a farmer call us and say, oh, it turns out I have this much available. So we'll use MailChimp in that way. We use Instagram, mostly for those who are on Instagram know it is very food focused. It's very friendly to any kind of food business. And then we do have it synced up with Facebook as well. So it also cross posts there. And in our community, a lot of people are looking at Facebook, especially older generation and older customers, like our direct customers. We use Google for almost everything. And for text messaging and phone, we use text messages a lot, especially with producers. I'm gonna have to look into that that texting service, Austin, that you mentioned, where it all goes to one number. We use Xero for our accounting platform. We used to use QuickBooks. I do like Xero. It doesn't seem as clunky. And then we used to use a routing app for our routes, and it was just as easy to plug it into Google Maps. And after a while, our delivery driver, I mean, it's pretty static, our delivery route, that they kind of know where to go every week. So yeah.
Thank you for the great overview there. Just as a quick follow-up, when you say Xero is less clunky, then I presume you mean QuickBooks, since that's
I'm sorry.
most
Yes,
people use. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So I have kind of some sort of set up questions that I think might be some common things that folks might want to know more about. As a tech provider, we often see folks come to us that have like multiple systems, and sometimes it's inevitable, especially if you're selling through another business, you don't get to choose what they use. So, Austin, can you just talk about for FarmStand, I think you've started to talk about it already, but just like dive into just some of the challenges and benefits that you see for having two totally separate sales platforms.
Sure. So yeah, as I mentioned before, in like kind of late 2019, early 2020, which worked out really well for us, we merged with a home delivery company called Pacific Coast Harvest. So we're now one company with two different brands, but sort of a legacy of that merger is that we still use two different sales platforms. So you can see here, there's just a screenshot. On the left is our wholesale side, and that is with the buyer, the top of what the buyer sees when they enter the purchasing page on Local Food Marketplace. And the right is our retail side, Pacific Coast Harvest, and that is using the platform Delivery Biz Pro. And to be totally frank, I've had the luxury of not having to use Delivery Biz Pro so much, which is really nice. But we're probably 3 years in now into the merger, and we still kind of have these challenges of like we have managers that haven't really used local food marketplace much. So when we add a late invoice or a late order, they don't know how to print it off on local food marketplace, which is not hard to teach at all, but it's sort of a relic of using two different systems. And so as you can see, like we think for retail, I'll say like user experience, both for retail and for chefs, has been like a big thing for us. So the pictures are a little bigger on Delivery Biz Pro. It's very like obvious what you're getting, how much you're paying and all that, how much you're buying. But even local food marketplace, I think both of them, we've had chefs comment on like how unbelievably handy it is to have, like lately we've placed a big emphasis on like good pictures, good user experience, because some of these folks are literally coming over from like broadline distributors who are sending them Excel spreadsheets that are just so 1980s and unengaging, like, and so it's like to have something, we really try hard with the photos and the descriptions to keep it up to date, which I think is just a huge win for us. And then also with local food marketplace, and to be totally honest, I don't even know with Delivery Biz Pro, but we place an emphasis on being able, when you click into the product, you can click into the farm's profile. So we do a lot of sharing of, where we place an emphasis on transparency. So whether you're going to buy an individual item or you're clicking on our Meet the Farmers tab, as you can see in the middle of the screen on the left for the local food marketplace. So we often actually use that feature a lot too, like when we're reaching out to folks to sort of prove our authenticity, if you will, to say like, hey, we're not just like another company that's offering local product. Like literally, you can look through, click on our farmers, and we can assure you that we have close relationships with all these folks. So to go back to your question of it's been a little challenging, trying to manage a team that's using two different systems that can't kind of readily be swapped between. So we are like, in the future, we are keen on the idea of consolidating those and moving everything to local food marketplace. For now, it's sort of we just have to deal with sort of the legacy of the merger. So.
Totally, that makes sense. And I think just a couple of things that I pulled away from what you were talking about was that, like, regardless of your sales channel or the system you're using, an emphasis on a good user experience and photos, since we're selling food.
Definitely, yeah. And I'll say one more thing that is really nice about using a system that has a community of other producers, like with local food marketplace. As you can see there, what you're seeing is the very top of the order screen, which is where you can feature products. But like we work with several other food hubs and farms that use the same technology. And I was sitting down with one the other day, and they mentioned like the featured product thing on ours. You can see it's green. It doesn't stand out much from the green background. They're like, oh no, you can make that pink if you just email them. And so it's nice. Like, so there's just little things like that. And even the MailChimp integration, same guy sat down and showed me exactly how to do it. So it is nice having other folks in positions in farm and food businesses that are, trying to make it work for them as well as you, and with similarities that overlap.
Got it. Yeah, that I hear what you're saying there. It's like about having a set of other users that like have similar challenges and or run similar businesses, and being able to talk with folks. Cool. Ellen, I have a couple of follow-ups for you. This is not Ellen's Xero website. I just pulled this off of the internet just so we had something to look at. It honestly is the first time I've spent much time personally also looking at the Xero sort of interface. So you probably noticed as a user that it's more widely adopted, like in Australia, which is where I think it was originally developed, and throughout Europe. Can you maybe speak a little bit more to like you mentioned just less clunky, but are there other things that you could mention about Xero for folks that probably a lot of people have never heard of it or don't know very much about it?
Yeah, so the decision to use Xero was our bookkeeper. So for a while, up until 2018, I believe, or 19, I can't keep track of the years. We were doing all of our bookkeeping in-house with QuickBooks. And then our bookkeeper employee resigned. And it was, we did onboard a new employee, but it was a hard learning curve. So we moved it out of house, our whole bookkeeping. And this is for all of my businesses. So I also own a couple other businesses too. And so the bookkeeper wanted us to go to Xero. And they took care of all that front end admin work of getting all that data over there and learning about how our business was run. But what I like about it, and I can't speak to what QuickBooks is like now, but we had like the QuickBooks desktop version. But what I like about this is it's on a cloud. So I can be anywhere. If I'm traveling or if I'm at home and I don't want to go to my office, I can click into it and pull it all up, and it's live, and there's a cloud. And like I said, I also have all my different businesses, and I know QuickBooks can do this too. But I can run a report for my entire LLC, which has several DBAs under it, or I can split it out by the DBAs. And it's really great. So what we do when we, it's still clunky. When we have a week of sales period, like reconciled, as we kind of call it, I email my bookkeeper and I say, it's time to process the invoices for week October 19th or something like that. Blah, blah, blah. And so she'll go in and she enters that all into Xero. And it's just that summation number. We don't need things itemized or anything like that. We just need that sale total. So that system seems to be working. We've been doing that for about 5 years. Like I said, I can't speak to what QuickBooks is like now, but it just seems a little bit user-friendly and more involved than doing more bigger things that I needed than compared to QuickBooks. So yeah.
Great. Awesome.
So maybe LFM will have a Xero integration.
Yeah, it's I guess it's possible. I know they have an API and just like QuickBooks does. So yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll tell my bookkeeper to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah. And another follow-up to you and related to just the Google Maps piece, just as we've come through a period where there was just so much home delivery happening, and where we saw a big, pre-pandemic, we had some customers using route planning systems, but we started the pandemic and it was quite clear very quickly that the amount of home deliveries were just amping up the need for route planning and optimization systems. And but prior to that, your process was very similar to what a lot of folks would use that were doing deliveries to businesses, because the route's kind of similar week to week or day to day, or whatever the delivery schedule is. So I put this map up here, and I know you're going to talk about this more later, but you have a lot of moving pieces to your logistics going on, because not only are you managing FarmTable's logistics, FarmTable also manages the statewide network, correct, for
We don't
Iowa?
manage it, but we just tap into it. So
Oh,
we're
okay,
the,
got it. Okay.
we're like the big
You coordinated or
leverage.
something? Okay.
Yeah, it's a coordinated,
Mhm.
organized chaos every week.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
And yeah, curious whether maybe it's not a route optimization system, but like, has that group thought about how, like, what kind of logistics solutions might be needed or might sort of lend some clarity to the comings and goings of all the trucks that are on the road? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer or talk about a couple different things that you
Yeah.
brought up. So the pandemic was, April, May of 2020 was insane for us because, at that time, prior to the pandemic, 70% of our customer segmentation was the food service restaurant customers. And then we saw the bottom fall out before we saw the ripple, we saw what was happening. And we quickly pivoted. Everybody says they quickly pivoted, right? But we were doing, now we do about 35, 40 drops in a week, and we were doing 90 to 100. And a lot of them were doorsteps, and it was a big flex, but we figured it out. And we had to break up our delivery days. We had to go to Omaha maybe 2 times versus 1. But anyways, the thing about I'm sure has been explored as the working group. So these are on the right here is all the different food hubs, and there's all these crazy things happening. And the LFPA grants and the LFS grant right now have really, we've been building this foundation for about 5 years, have really shown that this is possible. So in Iowa, when we started our business and we based our selling period off of what I had known from when I was doing wholesale as a vegetable grower. The customer is probably going to place their order on Sunday. They're going to probably want a delivery mid to late week. Farmers are going to probably want to do their harvest at the beginning of the week, after, if they're doing farmers markets or such. And then they fill their CSA boxes, the rest of the time. So anyways, so I kind of made it known that like we're coming to Des Moines on Wednesdays. And so now what we're seeing, and so Des Moines, for those that don't know Iowa geography, is pretty much right in the middle. It's that yellow dot there on the map. We see farmers that are playing into all the systems, all the different food hubs are also following that same selling period. So that's pretty cool. The one thing too about not using like a route thing, especially for our food hub, I can't speak of what the other food hubs are doing, but for our food hub is we go lots of places, but we might not actually be making a lot of the deliveries. We pay another food hub to deliver something, or we hire another partner to do stuff for us. So we run 2 routes essentially twice a week. So we're going on Wednesday, we're going to Des Moines. We go to the central meeting place. It's literally a parking lot. There's a picture that Amy will show later where 2 trucks are backed up and there's lots of things happening. And then on Thursday, we go to Omaha. So, and like I said, right now, things are pretty static and our routes are the same about every week. So we might have some weird anomalies or oddballs, but the driver pretty much has the route memorized. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So doing a quick time check here, folks, I believe we have about 30 minutes total left, and I want to make sure we have some time for some questions. I'm not seeing any questions in chat, so I wanted to remind folks that are here, if you have questions, like don't wait to ask them, so that we can make sure we get them on the table and get them answered properly for you. Want to make sure we're here to answer the questions for the folks that are here. So the next thing that we're going to tackle here is around technology adoption. And we're going to really just talk about adoption. So as a food hub, of course, you've got both customers and you have producers, and then you have your internal staff. And I think both Austin and Ellen have talked about like how, some of the challenges around getting everybody on the same page with all the systems that everybody's using. So Ellen, I wanted to talk to you, if you could briefly comment on just, one of the things that I notice, because I tend to follow a lot of our customers on social media, and I've always noted how in your communication, in your social media posts, and probably other emails and stuff like that as well, that you really encourage like what the sort of marketing industry calls omni-channel, but like it's basically you say, place your order online, email us, call us, text us, send a passenger pigeon, whatever, like you're pretty much, telling folks, place your order however you want. So can you talk a little bit about that, like how you arrived at that strategy and how it challenges benefits?
Yeah, so every customer, we work with a lot of different customers, just like we all work with a lot of different kinds of farmers. So every customer has different needs. I mean, we have chefs, text Sherry there. Now you guys all know her number, you can text her too. We got 3 a.m. They just finished clothes and they're like, oh no, we are gonna need parsnips or something. And so she'll get those text messages. And what we do then is, we'll open up an order and start adding a cart for them. Let's do that on the back end. I guess the biggest thing is, so knowing what your customer and how you want it to be. When we first started using LFM, it was like, I thought it would be like an overnight thing, like people would be adapting to it. And it's like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. And, kept hitting the reload button and the sales were coming in. So it took a little while to get people used to what the system was. But having all these alternate like ways to get in touch with us, we want to sell food, right? So we want to remain inclusive and available on however you feel comfortable contacting us. I mean, we even have people call or stop in our warehouse to place an order. And we'll just like open up the back end of LFM for them and be like, okay, that's your 3 pounds of butter will be coming next Thursday. We'll call you when it's here. So I guess the big thing is just kind of knowing what your customer needs to have. But the great thing about having LFM is that it's doing all that live inventory and control, and it's all putting it in one space for us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for expanding.
The con, though, I will say the con. Yes, the con about that is sometimes it messes with our live inventory. If it's like maybe somebody's placing something online, especially something that's limited, like mushrooms or something like that, where they're high in demand, or like fruit. We'll have some situations of that. It's like, well, that's just sold out in 5 minutes, quickly make sure you get entered into LFM so somebody else isn't trying to buy it. And then so then Sherry kind of has to stay available and be on it. So when she goes on vacation, or she's working, or she's out hiking or something, she'll kind of let us all know, like, by the way, or she'll text the rest of us like, hey, if anybody's near your computer, can you enter in this sale quick or something for me? Especially if it's something that we know is limited. Like right now we're experiencing like such high demand on eggs, and so that would be the con of this system, is that live inventory piece.
Cool. Quick follow-up about, for you, Ellen. Megan is asking, how do you use, LFM as a point of sale? I think you used the term, the words POS. I'm not sure if that term
Yep.
is familiar with everybody, but how do you use it as a point of sale? I think Megan was wanting to know that.
Yeah, so when somebody comes into the warehouse, and it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around this, and I think now you guys might actually have a platform for this. Is that true?
Yeah, we have an integration with Square,
Yeah.
for processing payment in person. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, there, we used to get so many people just walking into the warehouse asking to buy things. And it was like a 3 o'clock in the morning kind of thought. So there's a way to kind of manipulate the system.
Yep.
We call them cash customer. So they come in, they're cash and carry. That's their customer name. And we do about $40,000 to $50,000 in cash and carry customers in a year. You know, Austin, you were considering that. It's a great way to move things that maybe like are close to shrink, or they missed the truck, or like for some reason you have a glut of something for some inventory mess up. It's a great way to move product quickly. So that's kind of how we do it. So if I'm not sure if Megan is familiar with LFM, but what we do is we put them back in order period. So we're not messing with the current inventory.
Okay.
And that's how we handle it as a
Yeah.
POS customer. And it's kind of slow, like entering in all the items and like looking them all up, but people are very patient and understanding. It's not like a legit POS system in that way. We're not scanning things or anything like that. Sometimes we have to weigh something out, you know. So,
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
all your weight-based items. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take this over. I see Maria has a question, which we'll get into here in a little bit, but Austin, can you talk a little bit about just your additional communication channels, so to speak, here, and systems that you've adopted and why you've brought on these new tools, additional tools to communicate with farms and customers? Yeah.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So we everything Ellen is mentioning in terms of like take orders in any way we can is super familiar to us. And I think some of these things that we've implemented are at the behest of Austin can't take orders every single weekend because he wants to go off the grid for sometimes. And actually, like, being where we are in Washington, like, we have a very active team, and like we don't expect people to be plugged in all the time. It's like one of the beauties of living in such a natural, amazing place. And so part of this has come out of a need for like needing to give either myself and my business partner time off, but also like our employees who sort of get into this sharing role that Ellen was mentioning. And we don't want to pigeonhole them into a place where like they always have to be checking their phone, whether it's internally or externally. And so along with that, part of the reason we implemented some of these is because there's just too many, like me trying to filter everything from producers to customers worked to a certain point, and then we hit a certain number of farms and customers and it just wasn't feasible anymore. And so these are just a few examples of the things we've implemented recently. So Haymarket has been a big one for us. And I told Amy prior to this conversation, I feel almost like a Haymarket salesperson because I've been touting them. And so I've been texting with their guy about referral discounts, both for new members and myself, because we found it so handy that I feel like it's worth sharing with the rest of the farming community. So Haymarket, basically what it does is it's an app. We always joke it kind of looks like a dating app. You've got all your farmers lined up on the left here, and you've got ongoing conversations with farms, and on on our end, it's actually, I blanked it out for the sake of this, but it's really not like proprietary information, but right under producer is normally our number that folks can text us at. It's text only, you can't call, which is actually really nice for us because then we kind of have a paper trail for everything. If like there's a discrepancy, we can say like, no, refer back to Haymarket, like they said this or they didn't know that. And from our end, it allows our whole this particular admin team is 4 people. And it allows any of us to text the producers, and then it automatically, at the beginning, you get it all set up and registered, and it automatically signs it with our name. So you can see in that screenshot, Elise sent a message to James. And what we use this for is we don't use it in place of email. Typically, like if farmers have any big, philosophical things or anything that's longer than would be reasonable to read in a text message, they can always still email our team or whoever they need to. But this is for typical day-to-day like order adjustments, anything that's a quick back and forth that you would text about anyways. We use that for this, and what it does is it allows our whole team to track what's being said both from our end and what's incoming. And so it's on a separate number. And what it's allowed us basically in the grand scheme of things to do is like take this whole business that I started that was like revolved around my cell phone, and which is actually not even a local area code, which confuses people too, to this text only system where producers can just text us and know that our whole team will see it. I'll just say really quick, we try to respect folks like sort of time boundaries. So we know there's a few folks that we've been working with so long that we know they're awake till 2 a.m. every night, and we can send them a text whenever we want. And there's others that like, we unless it was like an important order adjustment, we probably wouldn't send them something past like 6 or 7 p.m. Especially if we don't know them that well. But it's been a really nice way for us to consolidate these quick communications. And then Sorted is the other app that we just started using, which is it's a sorting mechanism with Google Maps that when we basically our public email address is info@farmstandlocalfoods. So when emails come in, they'll land in that left column, info@incoming. And then we have the ability as a team to assign them to who should handle them. So like I'm in the first column, I'll handle most things related to sales and marketing. Elise is producer oriented and market management. Chris is accounting and HR and everything else. So it's a quick way for us to sort things. We just started it and we're still getting the hang of it. But it kind of quells the chaos of just a catch-all inbox that gets 100 emails a day and potentially missing important ones at some point.
Yeah, that's something we hear from customers a lot is like just having that singular inbox is helpful so that then folks know how to get in touch with you. But then it's also a challenge when not the only one person is going to be dealing with all of the things that are coming into that inbox. So
yeah, definitely. We actually implemented it. We started pushing everyone away from like trying to contact me personally. And I'm speaking mostly in terms of sales and producer oriented. And we've designated Elise to producers and myself mostly to sales. But there was the risk of like, if people are sending important things that need to be caught right away to my personal email, like I have all these other priorities. I actually prioritize text. So it's like things did slip through the cracks. So when we pushed everyone to info it helped us all catch that. But there was a lot of time spent in our office between this triad of like, hey, who's handling this? Like, and now we're getting closer to it, but I was joking with Amy too. Now we like have the long meetings about like what topic is whose priority, but there's thousands of things people email us about. So it's not worth spending too much time.
totally. Yeah. I can relate. We have systems for this exact same reason ourselves.
We have one email address too, but
Yeah.
we don't use the sorted skin. And I just texted my team that, and we've got like 7 people in that one email all over the state of Iowa. And we just, when it's been taken care of, or we tag things and color code it and look for your color, so.
Totally. And
Like
I
a-
should mention really quick, I think, Amy, you guys might use this too, but the one other really important tool that we use is what's called Slack.
Oh, yeah.
Which a lot of people now these days are familiar with it, but that between Haymarket, which is our primary producer facing thing, our email address, which is our primary customer service thing, and Slack, which is like our big internal team tool. And it's essentially looks a little like Haymarket, but you have topics, sort of ongoing threads on the left hand, and then you can also direct message folks or message 2 people at a time. And it allows our entire team to communicate internally, which that is actually our entire team, including our drivers. So anything that we need to relay, about if it's a general message about snow, and needing chains on the vans, to, hey, like we have to cancel eggs for these 3 customers. This affects these 3 people on the routes. It streamlines that so much quicker than like one person sort of dispatching text and everything, because one person can solve it typically with one message. So that's sort of the trifecta of the main communication tools we use. And then this, just really quick, this is our buyer's guide that we send out. We put this together last year and we tweak it probably once every couple of months. And this is just, it's literally just a Word document. But what we did is we went through all of our sort of FAQs over the years. And this applies whether you're a farmer or a food business or a food hub, whatever. We took all the sort of FAQs, just plugged it into, I think there's 1 or 2 more pages on here. And we send this to buyers and we just say like, hey, instead of like us having a 8 to 9 email back and forth exchange about all the things that you need to know to order, like it's all here. And to be totally frank, this sounds a little harsh, but we can kind of like determine who we want to work with from a customer point of view by like their willingness to read it. Like if they are asking us over and over questions that are in the buyer's guide, like we know right off the bat it's going to be a high maintenance customer, and unless they're ordering a lot, it's probably not worth it. So that's been a big time save and a win for us, is just like putting time into editing this, and you save time in the long run between the back and forth.
Cool. Yeah, we see a lot of this on our customer sites, and I think it's good. Like we see it from a wholesale standpoint, and also like folks that are doing CSAs. It's sort of like what to expect with our CSA, like how do you put things on hold? What do what are the options? It does, because working with a business that is primarily working with small farm, is a small farm, or working with small farms is not the same as doing business with Target or Amazon or what have you, even though you're buying online and doing some of this stuff online. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for addressing that. So I did want to make sure we've got some time. We have a few more questions for our panelists, but what I think I'm going to do right now is just like kind of pause for a moment. And let's grab a couple of questions, and then we'll loop back at the end here to kind of get some final thoughts. If the questions aren't super complicated, then we can kind of just keep moving on with questions. But I think a question got popped in here. It looks like, Ellen, you might have answered it already. So it's probably less a tech question and more like, how do you
I pressed return too soon, but I also wanted to say that we have some pretty static producers that have worked with us for a long time, and we've had a great relationship with them. And then as we found demand from our customers, we went and found farmers that were helping with that demand. And then we probably get 2 or 3 farmers a week that email us asking how they can participate. And you can kind of tell right away who will fit. You know, our first question is, do you have a product liability insurance policy? And then if we don't hear anything, then that's probably not the right customer. So,
Yeah, so I hear, this is probably not specifically just technology, but like that you both have things that you need to know, but it, and or communicate to customers, producers, et cetera, but like that does help suss out who the right fit is for working with you. And I think Maria's question is around like, how do you work with farms that are on a spectrum of technology, sort of comfortable?
yeah, sorry, I
and-
didn't see that second
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I can definitely answer that too. And
Yeah.
we work with about 20 different Amish growers.
Mhm.
So obviously they're not texting us, they're not emailing us, they are using
They're not
LFM to
even getting
upload their
phone calls from
inventory.
you,
Yeah,
right?
so we write letters. They'll write us a letter. They know that we need inventory by Friday, so they'll write us a letter with what their availability is, or they will call. Sometimes we just call them, and that we'll just keep calling until somebody answers the phone. Because they do have community phones, at least the community we work with does. So then we just upload their inventory. And a lot of we've worked with them since the beginning, this community. The crops that we are getting from them are low risk. So I mean like sweet potatoes, onions, squash. So we usually get like a truckload in at a time, and maybe we communicate with them about once a month or so. So it's not as this pressure of like, we need to know what you have, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So sometimes it is shipped to us.
Great. Thank
Yeah.
you for
And we do
that.
crop
Yeah.
planning meeting with them too. And kind of just talk about all the specifics and such. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for the questions. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat at the moment. If somebody needs to like be unmuted or something to speak, that's totally fine too. I'm sure that we'll be able to roll with that. While we wait for a couple of more questions, I'm gonna just maybe put out a couple of questions here to Austin and Ellen that might sort of spark some other questions, but one is, are there any new ways you plan on using technology looking forward? And I'll point that to you first, Austin.
Cool, thanks. I'm just gonna pause for one moment and go back to Maria's questions, because I think they're probably
Go
some
for
of
it.
the most important when it comes to successfully running a food hub in terms of farmer relationships.
Yep.
I'll make it snappy here. We have till 2:15, is that right?
I believe it's 2:15. We did get started a little bit late, so I don't know what everybody's expectation is, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll give the short answer then, and
Yep.
my email is up before, but you can always shoot me one if needed. It's Austin@FarmStandLocalFoods. But I think both your questions, Maria, are super relevant. I think when we started, we had I mentioned this early on, but we had a very specific geographical region of farmers we wanted to support, and valleys and literal farms that we had longtime relationships with. And as that's gone on, Ellen mentioned right now, like eggs, like I've spent probably 5 to 6 hours this past week, just like calling every egg producer in town to see what they have. And there's certain products over the years that have kind of like sent me on the search for specific things. And I think I can't think of any farmer that we've wanted a specific item from that hasn't also become like a special long-term, relationship where we have a mutual respect for one another, whether it's like kiwi berries or quince or, grass-fed lamb or goat or anything like, is when we go out and seek that out, the relationship eventually finds itself where it did with these farmers that we first, created the relationships with. But I think it's a really honest question about like, what can the food hub provide the farm and vice versa. And every once in a while it doesn't work, and that's okay. like there's been farms that we've tried to work with for a couple of months and we realize the geography doesn't work or the logistics or whatever, and that's okay too. But also just your question on the different levels of technology and communication or their spectrum of tech use. We run the gamut, just like Ellen said too, like from folks who literally like speak a couple words of English and who only want to deal with like text and that's it, all the way to folks that are like highly capable when we give them the local food marketplace guide and they post their own product, post their own price and all that. But I do think I will say like local food marketplace and the systems we've put in place allow for us to kind of accommodate all ends of the spectrum, knowing that those folks that were texting only and that's out of our regular system, like we do try to acknowledge the time and energy that takes and that we can only do a certain number of those in the grand scheme of our producers. So so now, sorry, to switch back to Amy's question, technology going forward. Yeah, I think as we keep going, we keep implementing these little like apps and tools of like, you know, things that just save us 10 or 15 minutes. They are huge for us. So I think, you know, leaning into our routing software, consolidating where we can, is going to be really, really important for us. I don't have any like specific new technology that we're looking at using, but probably will not too long from now.
Consolidating and integrating. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Great. Ellen, is there anything that you want to share as we
I think that you know, if folks are looking at starting a food hub, I think the biggest thing, like I didn't even know I started a food hub, but just giving yourself a lot of grace, understanding that there's going to be a learning curve and you're probably going to mess up a lot and things are going to happen. And, you know, be willing to welcome change. You know, when you talk about business organization, there's always this change happening. So whomever is on your team, take a couple times a week to just talk through what happened and what can we do better next week? Because if you're not doing that, you're not going to improve your business.
Yeah.
So.
So continual improvement. Yeah.
Always.
Yep. We talk about that all the time in our team. It's like
the margin is so
game.
the margin is so thin in this
Yeah.
business, in this world, and cash flow sucks that like any inefficiency or mistake can be costly. So
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I resonate with your comment about didn't know you started a food hub. Well, we didn't know we started a business that served food hubs either when we started. It was like, oh wait, they're called something.
when
So,
the food hub working group started in 2015, Iowa State University Extension called me and said, yeah, we heard you have a food hub. And I was like, what's a food hub? I was like, I'm just meeting people in a Walmart parking lot. Like,
yeah.
what's that?
That's awesome. Great. Well, it is 2:16 and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, particularly since most of the folks probably joining our session here, it is 5:15 for them and it has been a long day, I'm sure, of lots of good information. So we're going to wrap for now. I did leave up here all of our content or contact information. Welcome anybody to reach out. And I'm going to hang here to see if any other questions come up. We're happy to chat and or take some other questions as folks often do at the end of conference presentations. So we're at that point where there's milling about, some people are leaving, and really appreciate everybody being here and joining us for this very last session of the day. And look forward to connecting with everybody again really soon.
Amazing. You guys were great. You're all rock stars. It's awesome to hear what you got going on. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, yeah. glad everybody was here. I do wish we were in person. I'm sure everybody
Me
else
too.
feels that way too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, we're hoping to give folks some real live examples of like things that people do.
Yeah.
Some real solutions to challenges that many of us face on a day-to-day basis. So,
And
yeah.
if you guys want to look us up on social media, like that's a good way to, when I started my food hub, like I would keep tabs and just kind of learn about how people were doing their systems and, really kind of gave you that idea of how they were running their business. So I encourage you to, stock all the food hubs and follow them all on social media. So.
Yep.
Thanks,
Great.
guys. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great. Looks like most folks are signing off here. Okay.
Thanks for coordinating, Amy. I'm gonna head out too. We'll see you guys.
Okay. Bye, Austin. Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
Austin.
weekend. Enjoy the
thank you.
snow.
Will do. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
And thank you as well. I got to get back to work.
Things. Work. Thank you for being here, Ellen. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in person sometime again soon.
I'm sure we
Okay.
will. Take care.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Have a great
Bye.
weekend.
Okay.
Do something that brings you joy.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Maria, there
Cool.
are a few people still here. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Sometimes folks want to ask questions out like with their voice. I don't know if that's the case here,
Oh.
but
Absolutely. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, totally feel free to take mute off and ask them while you have a chance.
yep. All right. They could have also maybe stepped away for a second.
Yep.